really nice to meet you. So I'm looking after the nature-based solution initiative for CMP, and so we thought it would be good just to give you a bit of an overview of what's happening in this initiative and where it's up to at the moment. And it's really about understanding the value of nature-based solutions for achieving cost-effective benefits for biodiversity, climate and people to drive conservation action. So I'll go into a little bit about what we're doing now. Thanks, Carolyn. So this is just a bit about us. So myself and Jess are the two people working on this project. TRMR is an NGO based in Australia that is focused on building resilient communities and reversing nature loss to help unlock transformational change. And we work mostly across Asia Pacific and Australia, using a whole range of different approaches to deliver on our mission. Thanks. So where the nature-based solution initiative fits into what is happening within CMP. So as Caroline said, there's lots of initiatives that CMP is supporting through the collective impact and collective learning program. And so given, CMP was formed with the idea that we'd learn from one another and improve our work, drawing on each other's experiences, this NBS review, if you like, is about that, is about looking at diving into that particular topic and seeing what we can learn from it from CMP members as well as the broader conservation community and so on, and then putting that into a nice, easy to look at piece of information to help others be more informed and be able to make some decisions about nature-based solutions. Thanks. So for the project that we're doing, we'll be looking at answering these 5 questions, and it's all centered around what is the value of nature-based solutions. So the first question is about what makes them different from other approaches that have been used in the past, and what are the particular aspects associated with that. We're looking at what are their benefits or lack of benefits in some cases for framing something as a nature-based solution. And obviously it's the buzzword at the moment, and even at the COP it's being thrown around everywhere, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger. It's like the new big thing for the world. The third question we're going to look at is what evidence is there that nature-based solutions are delivering benefits both for biodiversity and climate, but also importantly people, at a larger or small scale, and what are the conditions where they tend to work or not. So what are those enabling factors that need to be in place for a successful project? We're also looking for examples of cost-benefit analysis work that might have been done to show if they're an efficient and effective alternative to some of the other work that happens around addressing challenges of society. So some of the grey infrastructure engineering type work in the watershed, wash space, or the wash space, for example. And then we'll also be looking at whether there's any genetic theories of change, and so far I haven't found any, so we'll develop one up as a starting point. Thanks. So in a little while after we finish all these introductions to the initiatives, we're gonna have some breakout groups, and these are the 4 questions that I'm keen to have you think about if you're interested in talking a little bit more about NBS. So what are the benefits? How is it changing your on-ground approach? What are the lessons learned that you're finding from it? And then what are those enabling conditions that are needed for success? Thanks. So in terms of what the process is or the timeline, we're in the middle of doing interviews at the moment. I actually got my last one this afternoon, Sydney time. And then the report and the theory of change should be available in early December. And then we'll also be doing a couple of webinars to suit the different time zones sometime after that. And if you're interested in contacting me or so on, and you'd be keen to be interviewed as part of the process, it's not too late, and my email's on the screen if you want to make contact with me. Thanks. Caroline, that's all.
Yep. Thank you, Anissa. Let's go over to Adrian with JEDI.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adrian Marvin, and I'm going to be telling you a little bit more about the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Initiative. It's JEDI when we are feeling playful, and it's DEIJ when we're feeling very serious. So next slide, yep, this is our group. We are working closely with a group called Lacey Consulting. They have been helping us figure out what the CMP strategy for DEIJ is going to look like. Leander has a colleague, Missy, whose photo I could not get for this presentation. And then I am also supported by my colleagues at Foundations of Success, Ashley Baker and Judy Boschhoven. And next slide. So where do we fit in? The ultimate goal of our initiative is to update the conservation standards guidance with more JEDI components. And so we fall somewhere in between updating and evolving the conservation standards and developing new guidance and tools. Likely what comes out of this initiative will be some mixture of both in order to give our community the guidance to incorporate JEDI into all of their conservation planning efforts. So we are in phase 2 of this initiative. In the first phase, Leander conducted a series of key informant interviews with folks from the conservation community to get a better understanding of what sort of thinking was already out there. And he put together a report for us with a number of guiding questions, and the link to that report is available in this slide deck. So I really encourage you to check it out if you have not seen it already. It just gives you some really great things to think about in each of the conservation standard steps and how you can better incorporate DEIJ. But right now, oops, sorry, went back 1 second, Caroline. Right now what we're doing is after that report, we still felt like there were some big gaps and a lot of stuff that we don't know. So we are conducting a survey now, again, with Leander's help, reaching out to our community to get some more information about where CMP can best fit their support and move the community forward. And so the link to that survey is available there as well. And that's what my breakout group is going to be focused on, going through some of the questions from that survey. And I will be trying to pick your brains for all of the great ideas on how we can pull this into the next round of conservation standards planning. So now we can go to the next slide. What's next? This is just the beginning. This initiative is really just starting to take shape and get a feel for what this could look like. And so we're hoping to use these survey results again to inform CMP's strategic plan on JEDI. This will hopefully result in some guidance, resources, coaching and facilitation toolkits, and then just trying to grow our larger equity group within CMP so that we can keep the momentum on this going forward. So I'm hoping that you all will get excited and interested and join us and help build this community. And that's it for me.
Great. Thank you, Adrian. Now over to Sabina.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sabina, and I am one of the co-leads for the initiative on environment and development agendas as strategies for conservation. And the other co-lead for this initiative is Sheila O'Connor. She's an independent consultant, and I'm working at the Helmholtz Center for Environmental Research, so I'm acting as an independent consultant in this capacity. And this learning initiative is exploring how conservation organizations use these sorts of high-level political processes happening at the global level to secure environment and human well-being outcomes. Thanks, Carolyn. Next slide, please. And here you'll see in the red box, that's where we fit within the CMP strategic plan, in which we are trying to gather basically the experiences and the evidence base of what works and what doesn't work in terms of how to use these agendas to advance conservation work on the ground. Next slide, please. So just an overview of what are we talking about when we're talking about these agendas. So they're high-level political processes. They're involving government to government interactions and commitments, and they're very important because they have these cross-scalar implications from global to local, and they typically focus on sustainable development outcomes. And I'm sure that you're all familiar with them. And I think what we don't know is how many of them there are and their development through time. And the chart here shows you that we have just a plethora amount in them. And yet we keep still hearing issues such as global targets not being met. And therefore we need to kind of look at, well, is there an issue? Why are these targets not being met? And is there a disconnect between the global and the local level where conservation practitioners work in terms of implementing these agendas? Next slide, please. And so these are the questions that we address within our work for the initiative. Basically, to what extent are these agendas actively part of an organization's portfolio of work? How do organizations influence these agendas, the content and the negotiation processes of these agendas? How do they leverage these agendas when they're, for example, ratified to facilitate the on-ground work? In which circumstances you might find yourself where it may be necessary to use an agenda for your work, and what challenges are encountered when you use them as a strategy, and how to overcome these barriers. Next slide, please. So currently we are in phase 2 of the project. Last year it was phase 1. And in phase 1, we defined what this strategy is, because what these agendas are and how you would use them as a strategy. We produced a generic situation analysis and a theory of change using case studies and interviews and workshops with practitioners. And then we produced a list of recommendations for how to design and execute those strategies. And in this phase, we're basically going back to our situational analysis and theory of change, and we're looking for more evidence to vet and understand whether we've missed something, and whether our factors that we have identified, to what extent are they reliable, that they could be used by other organizations as their strategies. And we're also, sorry, Carolyn, and we're particularly looking at how other stakeholders, as our partners in conservation, also apply these strategies. So particularly the corporate sector, funders, civil society organizations, and government. And these are the case studies that we're trying to secure at the moment. Next slide, please. The products that we are producing, again, would be 5 vetted theories of change. So for every actor group that we consider, in addition to the conservation organizations, for every other actor group that we consider a partner in conservation, we would have a theory of change of how they would leverage these agendas to advance their interests and their stakes and their work on the ground. And there would be at least one case study to support and to demonstrate how this is actually done. We'll be producing an orientation guide. So these are the recommendations for how to design and implement a strategy in which you leverage agendas to advance your work. And we will be producing a webinar with CMP, which gives a high-level summary of our findings. And we're doing a literature review as part of our work, and we're doing it in such a manner where it would serve as a base for us to publish a mini review journal article next year. Next slide, please. And so there's several ways you can get involved. One would be to complete a survey that we have produced, which basically goes through 4 major questions that we're investigating. And it's really a very, very simple survey. You can finish it in 10 minutes or less, depending on how much information you have, you would like to contribute. And if you don't want to do the survey, we can easily just set up an interview maybe that's easier for you. You can participate in a focus group workshop that we're holding at the end of November, the beginning of December, and where we are presenting our findings to a group of practitioners and researchers across various sectors. And you basically, you see what the theories of change, what the products are, and then you're able to kind of critique whether it's critique different elements. Have we missed something? Is this really valid? And ask some more probing questions of identify where we can improve this. And you can also share a case study if you've also worked with environment and development agendas, or you can share your contacts or resources that you've used or consulted to help you navigate this topic. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sabina. I am going to stop sharing my screen, and Marika is going to share from her screen.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. And I assume you can all see my screen?
Yes.
So, excellent. Thanks, Caroline. So, welcome everyone, and thanks for this opportunity to tell you a little bit about the courses that we are running really through the University of Wisconsin, the Nelson Institute for Environmental Studies. Our courses are called the Conservation Essentials, and they are being developed as part of a collaboration between the University of Wisconsin, the Conservation Measures Partnership, and Foundations of Success. This is the team that's working on this. So this team was originally called the Teaching Adaptive Management Team. I'm happy to say there are 3 of its members here tonight, Nathan, who's on the call, Caroline, and myself. And I didn't introduce myself. I am Marika. So where this fits into the CMP strategic plan, this is part of, it sort of aligns with goal 1, which is training the next generation of conservation standards practitioners, and also goal, is that goal 1E, to develop online courses in the conservation standards. We have been doing this for quite a while, and trying to get to, and initially the impetus for this came out of a survey report that was run in 2019. It was really looking at what the community needed, what products they needed to support learning in steps 3 to 5 of the conservation standards. So as you can see here, there was quite a number of people who were interested in courses in steps 3 to 5 of the conservation standards. And that was really the impetus for the courses that we've started to develop. So right now we have a course in step 3 that is running at the university or through the university. We also are in development on a step 4 course, which will probably be completed late this year or early next year. We are debating about doing a step 5 course, and we are very motivated to start work on a step 1 and 2 course. I think the pandemic really sort of the way that we structured these courses, which was to do them online, was really, we didn't realize how prescient that would be, because during the pandemic, we do find that the demand for these courses are just increasing. So the current course is a step 3 course, as I said. We have students from all over the world, multiple time zones represented in every single course. We also do a lot to to do monitoring and evaluation of our courses. And so far the feedback, I'm happy to report, has been pretty good. So here's a snapshot of our students and some of the things they're saying about the course. Inside each course, we have narrated presentations. These are lecture presentations, and also what we call stories from the field. I'll show you a little bit more about that in a moment. But then we also have all these other things that are part of the course. The top two are shared with the conservation standards community, and we'll tell you a bit more about that in a moment. So here is one of our playlists. This is on the Conservation Essentials YouTube channel. So if you ever want to find this, you can just Google Conservation Essentials playlist or Conservation Essentials YouTube, and you'll be able to find it. And like I said, this contains online courses, course lectures. It also contains the stories from the field. I'll show you another picture. You may recognize some of these people. And the idea here is that they share how they implement the conservation standards, particularly in the later steps of the conservation standards, and how, I think it's wants to play. And, you know, and so they release stories directly from the field that show how these tools and these learning elements that we're offering are implemented in conservation practitioners' work. So here's the website. All of this, by the way, I will post in the chat box for you all. Our courses for 2022 are up. You can go and take a look. There's also an extensive FAQ on this website that can tell you a lot about the courses and how they're structured and what they contain. And then I want to give you a very quick sneak peek. In our breakout session, we're going to work with you to identify where the learning gaps are. I think we all are aware of areas that we personally feel weak in implementing, where we feel weak implementing the conservation standards as practitioners, and also where we notice maybe our teams or other teams, organizations we work with are having you know, some problems. So we'd like to identify those with you, and we're also going to talk a little bit more about these additional products that we're making available to the conservation standards community from these courses, and you know, how they benefit you. So that's a quick sneak peek, and we hope you'll join us.
Great, thank you, Marika. And I will start. Yep.
Okay, I'll stop sharing.
Great.
Okay.
And thank you, everybody. In just a moment, we are going to enter into breakout groups, but I did want to share with you, Claire Relton from Endangered Wildlife Trust made a recording of the initiative that she is involved with, co-leading, and I want to share that video with you, but she's not here, so we're not going to have a breakout session on that, but just give you a quick feeling for what that's about. And, oh, actually, I'm sorry, I have to share my audio. Just for a moment, I'm going to have to stop sharing and then share screen and share sound. Okay, let's start that again.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. In this presentation, I'm going to be giving you a brief overview of the Conservation Standards Effectiveness and Impact Initiative. My name is Claire Relton. I am working on this initiative with Sheila O'Connor. We are aiming to investigate what evidence exists that using the conservation standards leads to more efficient and more effective conservation, which then hopefully leads to greater conservation impact. We decided to expand this out to not only look at the conservation standards, but also other adaptive management conservation frameworks as well. We are also aiming to investigate how we might collect robust scientific evidence to help us test this assumption and essentially develop a long-term scientific study for the future. This is our team of collaborators. I just wanted to take a moment to thank all of you for your contributions so far this year. Our initiative aims to test the assumption that if organizations implement good conservation practice, then that leads to more effective and more agile conservation. This is CMP's strategy for goal 1. Essentially what we did was we expanded out that assumption and we identified what those results are that might indicate more efficient or more effective conservation and what that actually looks like. This is a detailed version of our theory of change. We've also got a more simplified version of it. We also looked at what barriers or trade-offs might exist to the use of the conservation standards. At the moment, we are consolidating all of the evidence that we have collected and received. We're looking at case studies, testimonials, scientific papers, management plans, organizational reports, and we're basically pulling out those key pieces of evidence that are helping us answer this question. We have also recently launched a conservation effectiveness survey, which hopefully many of you filled in for us. That survey is now closed and we are working on analyzing the data that we've received from it. Just really briefly, one of the results we did find was that 87.5% of survey participants said that using an adaptive management framework did actually lead to more effective projects and programs. So what's next? We're finalizing that data analysis. We are also hoping to identify key indicators and methods that we can add on to each of those results and assumptions in our theory of change. We are writing up our final report. We're hopefully delivering a full webinar early next year to share our lessons learned. As I mentioned, we're working on a long-term research proposal and potentially a scope of work to expand this initiative into next year. If you'd like to contribute or get involved, please contact myself or Sheila. Thanks very much.
Okay, great. So with that, I think we'll conclude the part of the overview of the initiatives and move into getting you all involved in breakout sessions. So we are doing a little adjusting on the fly. Given the number of people here, we're thinking that it might work best to do